My name is Maya, and I'm a baker. Not professionally, at least not until recently. For the last 10 years, my career has been a series of frantic, flour-dusted nights in my tiny apartment kitchen, all for the benefit of my friends. I'm the cake friend. You know the type. If someone has a birthday, a baby shower, a promotion, or even just a bad breakup, my first question is always, what kind of cake do you want? I've made 5-tier wedding cakes that took me 40 hours and cost me $300 in ingredients, for which I was paid with a bottle of lukewarm Prosecco and a "you're the best." I've baked 200 custom-designed sugar cookies for a friend's gender reveal, only to see them get devoured in minutes without a single person knowing who made them. I've never asked for more than the cost of ingredients, and half the time I don't even get that. I did it because it was my role. I was the giver, the one who made every special occasion a little sweeter. I told myself I loved it, and a part of me did. But over the years, the expectations started to feel less like a fun tradition and more like a heavy, unpaid second job. The center of this universe has always been my best friend, Lauren. We met in college, and she was the first person I ever baked a real cake for, a lopsided chocolate fudge monstrosity for her 21st birthday. Since then, I've been her personal, on-call baker. I made the cake for her college graduation, the cupcakes for her housewarming, the dessert spread for her parents' 30th anniversary, and the elaborate cookiegram she used to ask her bridesmaids to be in her wedding. Her wedding. For the past year, the wedding has been the only thing Lauren talks about. She's marrying a guy named Kevin, a perfectly nice hedge fund type who seems perpetually confused but happy to fund Lauren's every whim. And her biggest whim was a rustic chic barn wedding that would look like a Pinterest board brought to life. From the moment she got engaged, it was a given that I would be handling the cake. We never even had a conversation about it. It was just assumed. "Oh my God, Maya, you have to do something spectacular," she'd said over brunch a year ago, scrolling through photos of cakes that probably cost more than my car. Something with, like, edible flowers and gold leaf, but not tacky, you know. For the next 10 months, my life became wedding cake prep. I did 4 separate tasting sessions for Lauren and Kevin, each with 3 different cake and filling combinations. I spent weeks perfecting a champagne-infused buttercream. I sourced organic, edible flowers from a specialty farm 2 states away. I sketched out dozens of designs, which Lauren would critique via text with comments like, a little too plain, or, can we make the gold leaf more gold? I was also, by default, the baker for every other wedding-related event. For her bridal shower, I made a 4-foot-tall croquembouche. For her bachelorette party, I made 100 anatomically incorrect cookies that were a huge hit. Each time, Lauren would hug me, call me her baking angel, and then immediately move on to the next demand. The budget she gave me for the wedding cake itself barely covered the specialty flour, let alone the gold leaf, the flowers, or the 30 hours of labor I had already put in. But I didn't complain. This was Lauren's special day, and I was the cake friend. It was my job to be supportive and sweet. The strain was starting to show, though. My actual job, I'm an admin assistant, was suffering because I was so exhausted. My savings account was dwindling from all the small, ingredient costs I didn't bother invoicing for. The rest of our friend group, who had all been recipients of my free baking for years, just treated it as a fact of life. "You're so lucky to have Maya," they'd say to Lauren. "Imagine having to pay for a cake like that." The breaking point began to build last month. Lauren called me in a panic. "Okay, crisis," she said, her voice trembling with manufactured drama. "My wedding planner says we need a dessert table, in addition to the cake. It's the hot new thing. Can you whip up, like, 300 mini desserts? Macarons, mini tarts, maybe some eclairs. Nothing too crazy." I almost choked. That wasn't nothing too crazy. That was the workload of a small professional patisserie. I tried to gently push back. Lore, that's a massive amount of work. I don't know if I have the time, or honestly, the oven space. Her voice went cold. Maya, don't be difficult. I'm 2 months out from my wedding and I'm drowning here. I thought I could count on you. The guilt hit me like a ton of bricks. She was stressed. I was her best friend. So, like always, I caved. Of course, I sighed. I'll figure it out. For the next few weeks, my life was a blur of butter, sugar, and almond flour. I was running on 4 hours of sleep a night. I had burns on my arms from the hot sugar and my back was in a permanent state of agony. But I was getting it done. The macarons were perfect little jewels. The lemon tarts were tangy and delicate. I was finally starting to feel a flicker of pride. That brings us to last Saturday. Lauren had asked me to come to the final venue walkthrough with her, her mom, and the wedding planner, a terrifyingly chic woman named Celine. I was supposed to see the space where the cake and dessert table would be set up. When I got there, Celine was holding a clipboard and speaking in hushed, serious tones. Lauren and her mom were nodding along, looking deeply impressed. And this, Celine said, gesturing to a large, empty table draped in white linen, is where the cake will go. It will be the absolute centerpiece of the reception. Lauren clapped her hands together. Oh, it's going to be stunning, Celine. I saw the final proofs from the bakery yesterday, and it's even better than I imagined. I froze. My blood went cold. She saw proofs. From the bakery. I stood there holding my own folder of sketches and ingredient lists, and my mouth went dry. Her mom noticed my expression and gave me a tight, pitying smile. Lauren, however, didn't seem to notice my sudden paralysis at all. She just kept beaming at the empty table. I must have made a sound, a small gasp or something, because Lauren finally turned to me, her eyes wide and innocent. Oh my God, Maya, did I not tell you? Total bride brain. Things have been so crazy. She let out a little laugh. Yeah, we ended up going with Belle Pâtisserie for the main cake. Celine knows them and said for a wedding this size, we just couldn't risk it with a non-professional, you know? But don't worry, she said, patting my arm condescendingly. Your little dessert table will be right over there. And everyone will love it. My world narrowed to the sound of her words hanging in the air. Couldn't risk it with a non-professional. Your little dessert table. Every late night, every burn, every dollar I'd spent, all of it felt like it had been reduced to a child's craft project. Celine, the planner, gave me a look that was a masterclass in professional dismissal, a quick up and down glance that said everything. I was the help. The amateur. Lauren must have finally registered the look on my face because her tone shifted to one of forced, bubbly reassurance. It's just, Belle Pâtisserie has a reputation, you know. Their portfolio is insane. But honestly, I bet your cake would have been just as good. Seriously. Don't be mad. I'm not mad, I said, my voice eerily calm. That was the truth. I wasn't mad. I was awake. It felt like a spell had been broken, one I'd been under for a decade. The compulsion to please, to be the cool, easygoing friend, just evaporated. In its place was a cold, hard clarity. I looked at Lauren, at her mom who was now avoiding my gaze, and at the chic planner who had already moved on to discussing floral arrangements. I thought of the 300 macarons currently sitting in airtight containers in my fridge, the tart shells waiting to be filled, the wedding cake design I had poured my heart into. You're right, I said, my voice steady. You shouldn't risk it. I turned to Celine. Please send me the contact information for Belle Pâtisserie. I'll need to coordinate with them to ensure my desserts don't clash with their flavor profiles. It was a corporate, detached sentence that came out of nowhere. Lauren beamed, relieved that a tantrum had been avoided. See? This is why you're the best, Maya. So supportive. I went home and for the first time in 10 years, I didn't bake. I didn't even go into the kitchen. Instead, I opened my laptop and created a spreadsheet. I went through old messages, photos, and bank statements. For every event, every birthday, every party, I created a line item. I researched the market rate for every single thing I had ever made. A 5-tier wedding cake with handmade sugar flowers. $1,500. 200 custom cookies. $800. A 4-foot croquembouche. $950. Then, I created my controversial action. I drafted 2 invoices. The first was for Lauren, itemizing every single baking project I had ever done for her, including all the wedding-related work. I calculated the hours, the ingredient costs, and my professional labor rate. The final total at the bottom was $7,845. At the top of the invoice, in bold letters, it said, "For services rendered. Payment due in 30 days." The second invoice was more of a statement. I sent a group email to our entire circle of friends, the ones who had all benefited from my free labor for years. The subject line was, "An exciting announcement and update to my services." The email was cheerful and professional. It announced the official launch of my new baking business, Sweet Justice Patisserie, complete with a link to a stunning website I'd been secretly building for months. It detailed my new pricing structure and ordering policies. At the bottom, there was a PS that read, "To my dearest friends who have supported my passion for so long, please enjoy a one-time friends and family discount of 15% off your first official order. All future orders must be placed through the website." I attached Lauren's invoice to a separate, private email to her. The subject line was, "Final invoice for wedding services and past projects." The body of the email was short and to the point. "Hi Lauren, per our conversation, I agree that it's best to rely on a professional. As I am now launching my own professional service, I'm unable to provide the dessert table as a personal favor. Please find attached the final invoice for the extensive development and prep work I've already completed for your wedding, as well as a summary of past projects you've commissioned. Congratulations on your marriage, I wish you all the best. Maya." I hit send on both emails at exactly 9 a.m. on Monday morning. Then I blocked Lauren and the rest of my friends on everything. The fallout was nuclear. Within an hour, my parents were calling me, saying Lauren's mom had called them in a hysterical fit. My phone lit up with notifications from blocked numbers. A few friends who I hadn't blocked yet sent me frantic texts. "WTF Maya. You sent my sister an invoice for her baby shower cupcakes from 3 years ago?" Another said, "This is so passive-aggressive. What is wrong with you?" Lauren managed to leave me a 2-minute-long screaming voicemail from Kevin's phone. It was a masterpiece of narcissistic rage. I was a petty, jealous bitch. I was trying to ruin her wedding. She shrieked about how she could have gotten an intern to do what I do. And the invoice? She just kept screaming, "Who do you think you are?" The worst part was the guilt. For a moment, I almost buckled. She was right, I was being petty. I was trying to make a point on the eve of her wedding. I had taken years of friendship and love and reduced them to a series of cold, hard transactions. My mom told me I had gone too far, that I had embarrassed our family and that I should have just sucked it up for the sake of the friendship. She said I was burning bridges over a silly cake. But it was never about the cake. It was about respect. It was about being treated like a vending machine instead of a person. I didn't respond to any of them. I spent the day of her wedding hiking in the mountains, phone turned off. I found out later through the grapevine that she had to pay a rush fee to a local bakery for a dessert table that was, by all accounts, mediocre. My invoice remains unpaid, but I never expected her to pay it. The point was the statement. Now, my old friends are completely ignoring me, and my parents are deeply disappointed. But my new business. It's thriving. I'm booked solid for the next 6 months with clients who are happy to pay my full rate. I feel free, but there's a part of me that lies awake at night, hearing Lauren's voice in my head. So, I have to know. Aita for sending my best friend and our entire friend group invoices for 10 years of free emotional and baking labor after she insulted me.